Hello, my name's Ethan. Make sure to check out my website, ethanwrenn.com. From there, you can find links to all my various socials. On my website, I have a blog, and I highly recommend you check it out. It's quickly becoming one of my primary outlets, as you can see here. If you come to my website, blog section at the top right-hand corner, right next to the shop. I also have a shop where you can buy hoodies, shirts, bags. I'd really appreciate it if you guys go and check it out. But here's an example of like one of the blog pages. I have a lot of information explaining different products that you can invest in, as well as their top holdings. And every blog post also has its own unique video to go along with it. So if you guys could check it out, leave a comment, give me some feedback, I'd really appreciate it. So what's the next symbol we are going to be covering? Well, we are going to be looking at symbol EXR. You guys have probably seen a theme with today's stream. We're talking a lot about real estate and different real estate type investments that you can make in the United States. We started with symbol XLRE, which is probably the primary ETF, the sectoral ETF that you would look at to track real estate here in the United States. We covered DRN, which is a leveraged variant of the XLRE. We covered symbol ARE, which is a company, a great company. I basically went through the XLRE holdings and found my two favorite companies that are currently offering the best entry, great profit margins, etc. And we're covering them right now. And EXR is one of those companies. This is one of my favorite companies in the real estate sector right now that you could be jumping into. Now, what are some of the reasons I like symbol EXR? EXR is Extra Space Storage Inc. So this is again a real estate company, and they have a lot of like storage units around the country that people, rent out. They keep stuff in them. And that's just one example of a real estate type investment you can make. Again, you could be making investments into companies that do a lot of apartments. You could be making investments into companies that do a lot of like leasing to retail stores. So there's a lot of different approaches to the real estate game that all these different companies cover. This is just one of them. Now, real estate companies are notorious for having great dividend yields, and this one is no exception. As you can see here, symbol EXR offers a 4.48% dividend, which is absolutely huge. There are not many companies, regardless of sector, that offer a 4.48% dividend. So that is very attractive in it of itself. What else do I like about this company? As you can see, they consistently hit earnings, which is good. You can ride that momentum. Moving down a little bit, we have their annual income statement. Now, real estate companies are so profitable. If you guys looked at symbol ARE, it was very profitable as well. Well, let's look at symbol EXR and see. In 2018, they had a profit margin of 34.78%. That is phenomenal. That's like better than Microsoft. In 2019, they had a profit margin of 32.40%. In 2020, they had a profit margin of 36.03%. This is all happening with rising revenues year after year. Every year, they are producing more and more revenue that this gigantic profit margin is representing. In 2021, they had a 50.53% profit margin. And in 2022, they had a 44.67% profit margin. These are amazing financials. You cannot ask for better financial reports from any company. These are some nation-leading levels of income statements. These are phenomenal. Excellent. This is exactly what you want to see when you're looking at information like this. Rising revenues every year, rising profit margins. And not only are they rising profit margins, but the profit margins are huge, right? From 35 to 50% is insane. There are not many other companies that will offer you an experience like this. And when you're investing in any company, really, what is it you're buying? You're buying a method of producing money, right? If you're buying Apple, you're buying the rights, the trademarks, the workers, the technology to produce an iPhone in exchange for capital. If your company's not profitable, really there is a finance teacher would say it has no value, right? If your company's not turning a profit, people tend to evaluate companies on their current cash flows and projected cash flows. And let me tell you, the cash flows here are impeccable, like unmatched. So on a fundamental level, there's not a single complaint you can make with a company like this. Now let's look at a more technical level. Something we cover on every investment we look at here on this channel is the RSI. If you come up here, right next to the symbol, you will see a W. This means every candle represented by this chart represents 1 week of time. It's important to keep in mind your time frame so you have a general idea of how long it might take for some of these patterns to play out, right? And as you can see, the RSI down here is nearing that 30, which is typically a sign that this investment is oversold or potentially a good value, or it's a good time to be scaling into an investment like this. When the RSI is high in the sky, nearing this 30, 80 range, it's typically a sign that it's overbought, or potentially it's a bad time to be allocating capital, right? So let me quickly go through and mark every time that the RSI has been as low as it is currently. Okay. So a time prior where the RSI was as low as it is currently would be March 2020. And as you can see, the RSI came down, it touched that 30, then this symbol, EXR, proceeded to run as much as 180%. A time prior would be 2016, where the RSI came down, touched that 30, proceeded to run as much as 80%. Time prior to that, 2009, RSI, it touched down at the 30, then proceeded to run as much as 1,727%, basically completely untested. Like, let's zoom in here. This symbol ran 1,727%. If you look at the RSI, it went up and then it stayed up, guys. It stayed up. The RSI, it went from the bottom to the top and it did not come down. It kept running and it kept running and it kept running for what was a period of 7 years. It ran for 7 years consecutively, producing a 1,727% return. The RSI never going lower than a 45. That's insane. That's really great, honestly, when you think about it. There's a couple other products, such as like maybe an S&P, where you'll see the RSI dip down occasionally, but 90% of the time it's stuck to the ceiling and just showing signs of continued growth, right? The RSI rarely comes down. It'll come down. That's your alert to start buying, get into the symbol. Then it goes up and it stays up and it just continues to grow year after year, right? Things that have exponential gain will typically have that behavior. Even in symbol ARE, which we showed you guys a moment ago, it was quite rare that the RSI even dips down outside of a major circumstance, right? More often than not, it just showed continued growth over long periods of time. So we've identified that the RSI is low, potentially signaling a good time to enter into an asset such as this. What else do we like about it? Well, as you can see, this blue line here, this dark blue line represents the weekly 180 moving average. And again, going back as far as basically ever since, and all the data I have represented here by TradingView, the blue weekly 180 moving average tends to act as a support. And this symbol rarely, if ever, breaks below that weekly 180 moving average. As you can see, it bounces. It tends to act as a support. Every time it comes down, the RSI is low. It'll touch that weekly 180 moving average and then continues to run. RSI comes down, nears that 30, bounces off that weekly 180 moving average, continues to run. And that's exactly what we are seeing currently. Where do we expect symbol EXR to go moving forward? Well, we're currently projecting as much as a 110% gain, which would put the price per share up to $306. That is just about everything I have to say about symbol EXR. Again, I highly recommend watching our video on YouTube about symbol XLRE, which is the real estate sector ETF. In that video, we explained that as you can see, real estate as a whole has had a pullback throughout the year 2022, and it is currently at the low. It is at the bottom, right? It is at the bottom. The reason for this was we saw an increase in interest rates consecutively throughout this 2020 period. You know, if you were to think of like interest rates as a cycle, back in late 2021, interest rates were really low and people's access to money was pretty attainable, right? Pretty cheap. But now we are nearing the top end of this rate cycle, and we're expecting to be entering a flat rate environment or potentially a decreasing rate environment. And it is for this reason that you potentially want to start allocating money into assets that are going to benefit during a decreasing rate environment, such as real estate, right? When rates start to decrease, your floating rate mortgages are going to instantly become cheaper. Companies that represent real estate and have a lot of real estate investments are going to instantly have their expenses come down if they're using floating rate mortgages. If they are using fixed rate mortgages, they're going to be able to get more and more competitive mortgages moving forward, potentially refinance current mortgages, allowing them to further expand, make more development, invest more, and just continue to ramp up those revenues, right? Because their access to capital will be better. And again, whether you're looking at the IMF or the Fed, every news outlet is basically signaling, as well as just the fact that interest rates are really high right now. We are nearing the top of this rate cycle, and we are eventually going to be entering a period of decreasing rates. So you want to be allocating money into investments that are going to benefit from a future decrease in rates. Whether the rate peak was a month ago or 3 months ago, doesn't matter when you're counting for that bigger picture of like a year from now, 2 years from now. So again, you want to be positioning your money to benefit from a future decreasing rate environment. Real estate is one of the best ways to be doing that. And that's pretty much all I want to say about symbol EXR. I'm going to be right back, guys, and then we're going to jump into some more content.